Someday this journey will be remembered as our legacy west.
From western Wyoming, the snow-capped peaks of northeastern Utah were visible. The end was in sight. Under 100 miles left to travel, and the members of the train could sense it. Though there was a palpable spirit of anticipation awaiting entry into the valley, there was a simultaneous sense of sadness in seeing the trek come to an end. Over 1,000 miles had been traversed, filled with the unifying experiences that only mutual toil, service, and sacrifice produce. The wagon train had become a way of life. The flatlands of Nebraska, replaced by the prairies of Wyoming, were now giving way to vistas of rocky mountains, covered with green forests of pine and aspen. It would be only days before the company would move down the final miles of Emigration Canyon and into the embrace of the valley of the Great Salt Lake.
There's 4 things I've learned on the trail of life, and I'll pass them on to you. You never drink downstream of the herd. You never look straight up at a bird. You never squat with your spurs on. And you can catch more bees with honey than you can vinegar.
Mule Skinner Tennessee John, who has seen many trails accompanying his work, was quick to share his endearing philosophies. Wisely, he noted how people fall in love with the simplicity and beauty of life along the trail, and how difficult it is to leave it.
The spirits intermingle. It's a bonding. When this trail's over, you'll see a lot of tears. There'll be water troughs full of tears when the trail ends. I've already seen some people that came and had to leave, and people that come and stay and lose touch with the modern world. They all cry when they leave. It bothers me sometimes, but I try not to let anybody see it, you know. Mule Skinner ain't supposed to cry.
Leaving Bear River Crossing and still following the 2-track of the original Mormon Trail, the reenactment train entered into some of the most picturesque landscapes of the entire trek. The landmarks ahead, including Coyote Creek Canyon and the Needles, would mark their passage into Utah. Here the responsibility of the wagon master would change for the last time, as Bob Lowe, assuming the role of leadership, would see the train into its 3rd and final state.
I hope that our success from now on in can be as good as it has been in the past.
Though countless were the individuals who helped organize the affairs of the reenactment wagon train, one family needs to be credited as the Utah connection, with a good portion of the untold hours involved in seeing this mammoth project through to its glorious conclusion. Approximately 90 days prior to this time on the trail, Bob and Sarah Lowe gathered their children and extended family together, seeing the labors of 8 years of effort finally become a reality.
We pray that God bless us, that as we participate in this, we might have a better realization of the sacrifice of...
Principally, my oldest daughter, Bree, as everybody recognizes her, she's Brenda to me, but everybody else knows her as Bree. She's been working on this for the last 8 years.
Okay, here's the magic trick, guys. It's my request. Pinky locks, please.
What?
Lock pinkies, okay?
Pinky lock.
Serious.
What's
This
that?
is how you generate magic and miracles, imminent power, okay? Let's go.
All right.
See you on the other side.
This trail has a memory, and it's very clear to me today that through sacrifice that we've all experienced one way or the other by participating here or supporting people out on the trail, this trail has revealed and begins and still reveals its treasures.
Despite the years of planning and the anticipation of a joyful entry into the valley, Bree's time on the trail almost ended in tragedy. Near Pacific Springs, Wyoming, in an attempt to negotiate a gully near the trail, the reach on Bree's wagon was broken, throwing her from the front seat to the ground behind the mules. Being spooked by the incident, the mules darted across the prairie, dragging Bree and the tongue of the wagon.
it's almost like another lifetime at this point in time because I've played it over and over again so many times.
When I saw the commotion, I got there in a hurry. My horse just run a hole in the wind getting there, and I stepped down. They had the mules stopped, and everybody was saying, "Don't touch her, don't touch her, don't move her."
Having watched what I did, it was frightening enough that I really thought that I was going to come upon her dead.
She looked like a rag doll. She'd been drugged through the dirt for about 50 steps.
I was riding right beside her trying to grab the mules, and her dress was just totally wadded in the reins, and she was hanging onto the reins, which is good. Otherwise, she would have flipped sideways probably and got run over. I mean, she was just being drugged just right between the two wheels.
She looked at me and she says, "Daddy, I didn't let them get away." And that's always something a good teamster is concerned about, is they control their animals. And she said, "Daddy, I didn't let them get away."
She's a tough lady. She did not let go. She did not let go of those reins.
Front axle broke loose. That wagon should have fallen on her and just killed her. Somehow, at that particular moment, she was out of the way. Nobody can tell me why.
I just couldn't think of anything but the Lord was protecting her. And I believe that sincerely.
I really thought we're looking at a dead body. I was very, very surprised that the woman stood up and brushed off the dust and wanted to get back in another wagon. Very, very surprised that she did that. It's a miracle, really.
Having ruptured her spleen and broken ribs in the misfortune, she was hospitalized immediately after the accident.
They sat me right down again on the tongue. Ironically, the same thing that did all the damage on the left-hand side. And sat me down, gave me the blessing, and Dan Madsen is who did the anointing, and then my father sealed the blessing. And at that juncture, he commanded the body to heal and to be okay.
And we went to the hospital. About 5 hours later, they did a CAT scan on her. And the doctor asked her what time the accident took place. She told him 8 o'clock. He said, "Well, that bleeding has been stopped for several hours now." And I know that it was that blessing, not a doubt in my mind, to stop that bleeding. The woman could have bled to death very easily from the injury.
No jumping out of wagons, no must mow run, no bouncing on the axles, no must mow run, 'cause that's now you landed in the ICU. No must mow run.
Whose rope was this? Mine.
Oh, I knew that one snapped when I went through. We snapped the pinion bolt on this one. Okay. Okay, just stand everybody.
Maybe this will be just enough of a wake-up call for everybody to say, hey, let's check one more time. Because I want to get there safe for everybody. It's one thing to be emulating, living, and breathing the pioneer life. It's another thing to come to realization that there's some of it we don't want to reenact. And we came awful close.
Wagon Master Mr. Bob Lowe from Salt Lake City.
At Evanston, Wyoming, a small ceremony again depicted the changing of the wagon masters. Ben Curran, who had replaced Joe Vogel back on the western borders of Nebraska, delivered the reins of leadership to Bob Lowe, who would see the wagon train through to the Salt Lake Valley. Entering Utah on the 15th of June, the reenactment train commenced its final week of travel, receiving a hearty welcome into Castle Rock from some 2,000 well-wishers proved to be an accurate foreshadowing of the public's interest in the trek. The next day, the population of Hennifer also lined the streets to greet the wagon train upon its entry there. The following campsites at East Canyon State Park and at Birch Springs, near the base of Little Mountain, proved to be a little less accessible to the public in general. But the masses were gathering in the Salt Lake Valley, and on the morning of the 22nd of July, they would greet the reenactment company with an enthusiasm and warmth that would long be remembered by each and every individual of the sesquicentennial team. Early in the trek, a common question heard among the travelers was, "Are you going all the way to the valley?" In the process of learning who would cover the entire distance, it was realized that 7 wagons had commenced the trek the summer before in Nauvoo, Illinois. The Tom and Linda Whitaker wagon is one of those which started the trek in Nauvoo. With their children Ryan, Brent, Danny, and Aaliyah along for the duration of the trek, they contributed a unique family flavor to the atmosphere of the train, making the necessary sacrifice to live, sleep, and eat in, on, or around their wagon. They literally established a rolling home away from home.
After last year, it was so hard that I figured that I just died in winter quarters and Tom could carry on with whatever kids would go with him. But I decided probably a month before that I didn't want to get left behind, so I decided to go.
I don't know, but it means a lot to our family. It's brought us close together, and it's an experience that we'll talk about till probably throughout the eternities.
I've been out of the house for 4 years, and this is kind of like coming back into the house, you know, and so, yeah, there's little struggles between me and my dad about we both think we're right most of the time. He's usually the one that gets his way, though.
It's not that bad, living with my brothers. I'm used to Dan. Ryan's never home, so.
Well, Brent beats me up too much, so I like to stay away a little bit.
We have to wake up together, we have to harness mules together, we have to, you know, do everything together, and so for me that's been one of the biggest learning and growing aspects, is just being with my brother Brent and learning who he is and getting along with him and not beating him up too much.
My kids have never had so much freedom. Running around, especially Aaliyah, I've always just watched her constantly, and there's great people on here. I wouldn't have missed, it would have been a big part of my life I would have missed had I not come. The friends I've made and the acquaintances and the strength to my testimony.
I wonder if Daddy ought to take him down this steep hill.
Okay.
Think I should?
Yeah. Take him!
I think it's a good idea.
We're going down a steep hill!
I've seen our 15-year-old turn into a young man. We're waiting to see growth in Daniel. He's never around. But it's been Ryan. Tom couldn't have made it without Ryan. Tom came out here with a broken arm, and Ryan's harnessed every horse for him.
My great-great-great-grandfather, he was with the wagon, and he was driving across. He said, one of the things he said, if you were prepared right, it wasn't as hard as they all say. He said the handcart companies had so much more difficulty than he did. I have a whole bunch of friends back there, and you get more of the experience, I think, if you walk. Well, that's where most of the hardships were, and I like to get a little bit more close to them and feel because my feet have hurt really bad a couple times, and I think they went through a lot worse. Just feeling the spirit of what they had to go through and all the hardships. I don't think I would have made it if I would have came with the original company.
That's why they came. It's because they had a strong belief in Jesus Christ. I would hope that I would have been strong enough to do the same thing, wanting to bring it to my family, which is what they're doing it for their kids, for the future.
I just like to see it when people come out here just for a little bit, and just how they love it so much, and I just think that's awesome that we could make that much effect on people.
Religion is how I view the world, and you know, it's kind of a base for how I see the world. And my religion came to me, you know, by pioneers crossing the plains, and it gives me a better understanding of who I am and where I came from.
I went
and
and bought some yarn, and he's going to make one for me.
How it got to me.
Last year after I finished Iowa, I said, it's like having a baby. It's just painful sometimes the whole time you go on. And then after, it's just a beautiful memory. Or it could be like a fish story. The fish gets bigger as the years go on. I don't know. And then after, it's just a beautiful memory. Or it could be like a fish story. The fish gets bigger as the years go on. I don't know.
We're already talking about a few more wagon trains, so I'm sure it's in our blood, and I don't know how many more 90-day trails I want to go on, but I'm sure you'll find us out on some other wagon trains.
On the last leg of the journey, the Vanguard Company of 1847 was enveloped in an untimely illness identified as mountain fever. The malady was accompanied by chills, fever, delirium, achy joints, and often lasted as long as a week. Among those who were stricken by the sickness were Thomas Bullock, Wilfred Woodruff, and Brigham Young. In an effort not to delay the progress of the wagon train, an advance company continued on toward the valley, while President Young remained behind in this area to recuperate. Some of those who stayed behind with the sick took shelter from the heat in Cache Cave. There they would rest, update journals, inscribe their names on the walls of the cave, or study the new plant and animal life surrounding them. Here they waited until their leader was strong enough to move on.
I don't think your camera's working. You're gonna find it. You're gonna find it. Oh, hey, what's the big deal?
This is John, mine, and Heber's tickle fight. This is my fall out of the wagon patch. One on the bottom, where is it? Right there's my porta potty patch. And that's Nathan and my wrestle fight patch. And this is where John knifed me and I have to patch it.
My patches? I get drugged through sagebrush and don't need any.
Oh, great picture with the mountain.
Okay, 20 more.
I mean, they're genetic from you two, they're not. That's racist.
People don't know this kind of life anymore, I guess. And I think it's had a good impact.
Judging by the amount of people and the crowds that we've had, it must have had a very big impact on the world.
People from all over the country have came, people from Germany, Austria, Canada, everywhere has come and seen us, and they want to know more about the gospel.
I hope it's been a positive impact because the people out here do demonstrate a tremendous amount of devotion to keep going every day and every day and every day.
These people made a commitment to do this or they wouldn't be here. And commitments are still in vogue.
There's been so much publicity and so much spiritual value to it that I think it's something that especially our children and grandchildren are going to glean from it.
There's been about 350 million people that have heard of the wagon train. And I don't know specifically what impact it had, but it sure exposed a lot of people to the church.
I bet you that'll have a huge impact on the world with, it's not just a self-centered society. There are people out there that are human that have faith in God and will show it.
During the travels of the Mormon pioneers throughout the 1850s and 1860s, often missionaries leaving Salt Lake City or those returning from their missions to the valley traveled with the wagon trains coming and going along the trail. Talk of mission callings and missionary work in distant lands filled the countless hours as the early pioneers walked from one campsite to the next. The reenactment expedition was no exception.
Oh boy, here we go.
Dear Sister Clark, you are hereby called to serve as a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You are assigned to labor in the Canada Calgary mission.
You are hereby called to serve as a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You are assigned to labor in the North Carolina Charlotte Mission. You will serve for a period of 24 months.
You are hereby called to serve as a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Dear Elder Tyler, you are hereby called to serve as a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
You are assigned to labor in the California Carlsbad Mission.
You are assigned to labor in the Texas McAllen Mission.
You should report to the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah on Wednesday, September 3rd, 1997.
You will prepare to preach the gospel in the Spanish language.
I'm excited. I'm happiest I've ever been in my life. This is just amazing.
But perhaps the most endearing missionary story of the modern trail was that of the homecoming of Sarah Robinson. Sarah completed a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in April of 1997 and decided to walk the distance home from St. Louis, Missouri to Salt Lake City. In Sarah's particular situation, though, the walk home would be a monumental challenge. She was born with no calf muscle in her right leg.
I haven't seen my family since November of 1995 when I left, and I haven't seen my older sister for almost 3 years. She'll be there on the 24th, not on the 22nd, because she's in Russia right now. It's hard, but that's what makes it good. There's something about going through challenges with people. You grow closer to them really fast, and that happened with my companions. It's happened with people out here. You just have to make it through. You have to rely on each other, and it's the same with the mission, exactly the same. I think a lot of people get on the plane, 2 hours later they're home, and they don't get that chance to just think. And I've had a lot of time to think about the relationship I had with people who I taught and the things that I've learned on my mission and the things that are going on here. I do wish that I could see my family, but I'm excited, for entering the valley and being able to see them again. And I'm grateful that I have this journey, this time. I really miss my parents, and they have a great concern and love for me, and I've just felt that throughout my life, and so I'm going to hug them.
Streams of mercy never ceasing, echo songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet sung by flaming tongues above.
Service is not something that you do out of convenience. There are times, and I followed people's example on this, it's not been my own thing. When you pull into camp and you feel totally dead, you feel totally tired, and all you want to do is lay down, but there's people that are feeling worse than you. And I've seen so many people, especially the people that are going all the way, who'll go out of their way to help other people when they're feeling terrible. I've been walking along the roads before, on the gravel roads and things, and just been limping and just been feeling terrible. I've had people who feel worse than I do, who have huge blisters, who've held me up and who've helped me. And that's what happens in missionary work too.
Take and seal it for thy courts above.
The morphine probably helps. We should put all our audiences on morphine.
A couple of weeks before we entered into the valley, several of us became stricken with Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I myself had it so bad that I was not sure that I would live to see the valley, and like Moses of old would not be allowed to cross the Jordan. But with the faith of the brethren and blessings from the priesthood and mercy of God, I pulled through. So on July 24th, 1847, I was in the back of Wilford Woodruff's carriage as we pulled into the valley. I said, "Would you turn around so I could have a look?" Turned the carriage around, looked out over the valley and saw the Spirit of the Lord hovering over it. I said, "It is enough. This is the right place. Drive on."
The reenactment really has a way of taking you back real quickly and getting a sense of what they must have faced. The only thing that you don't understand is that they didn't know what was around the next bend. All they knew that the prophet of God was taking them there, and they just, in faith, went around every bend.
The old Pioneer spirit right here. Not really dressed for the occasion.
That's all right. You're looking good. There, you want my hat?
Yeah, I got to go with the hat.
You know, what I'm basically doing is exactly what Brigham Young told us not to do when the pioneers came into the valley and heard about gold at Sutter's Fort, California. He told them, if anyone goes, you can leave your church membership behind. And see, here I am, headed right for Sutter's Fort. Just what Brigham Young told me not to do.
So much about you. How are you feeling?
With Brigham Young still recuperating and remaining behind in the rear guard, the main body of the pioneers pushed onward. Leaving what is now known as Hennifer, Utah, they made their way up Main Canyon and climbed a ridge known as Hog's Back Summit. Seeing the horizon above them, they anticipated coming to the top and looking down into the Salt Lake Valley. Much to their frustration, upon reaching the summit, they found themselves in the midst of a continuing mountain range, extending in all directions, with no sign of the valley in sight. Knowing themselves to be close, and feeling such disappointment at not having reached their destination, they rightfully named the summit Heartbreak Hill. One of the flamboyant and beloved characters of the reenactment company was Teamster Larry Turbo Stewart. During the 1996 trek from Nauvoo to Winter Quarters, Turbo intended to ride for only 3 days, traveling just far enough to get to his farm. Having been a rodeo clown and knowing his way around animals, he was eventually offered a job as an outrider. Excitedly, he took the position and rode the wagon train for the next 3 weeks, all the way to Omaha. Having tasted the spirit of the trail, Turbo took on 2 jobs during the following fall and winter in order to join the Mormon Trail wagon train leaving in the spring of 1997.
I went out to Utah and worked on Buffalo Ranch, and I also, on the weekends and at nights, I worked at Denny's as a cook.
Often the brunt of friendly practical jokes, Turbo added a spark and spunk to the 1997 reenactment company.
There's 3 reasons a person's on the trail. He's either on it for adventure, he's either on it for the history of it, the pure history of it, or he's on it for the churchhood. And I thought I was just on here for the adventure of it, and I kind of like history a little bit, but I found out I was on it for all 3 things. Whoa.
While camped at Rock Creek in an attempt to stop runaway horses, Turbo was thrown to the ground, dislocating his shoulder. When Elder Hugh Pinnock, a general authority in the Mormon Church, who happened to be with the wagon train that day, offered to give Turbo a priesthood blessing, he agreed.
Before that, I didn't really believe in that stuff. I mean, I believed in Jesus Christ and all that, but I never thought that anything you could, you know, they always talk about miracles on earth and stuff, and I didn't think you could feel anything, and I thought, well, I told the guys I'll try it, and yeah, it helped my shoulder quite a bit. It didn't completely heal it, but it made it feel a lot better. It's just something, there was an aura, something there, some sort of, you could feel it. I can't explain it, there's a spirit there for some reason. The hardships are tough, but in another sense, it's kind of a blessing because it brings everybody closer. And a newspaper asked me what kind of quote I thought just a while back, what kind of quote would you describe the wagon train? I said it's kind of brought me to realize it's kind of a reunion of God's children. I don't want it to end though. That's my regret if it ends. I'm ready to go on to California or something.
Our dear Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this beautiful morning that we arise to go through the mountains this morning. Father, we pray for Thy Spirit and Thy help this day as we attack a large task in climbing the mountains. We pray that Thou will be with us, help support us, sustain our muscles and our feet and our bodies.
On Monday morning, the 21st of July, in preparation for the strenuous day awaiting them, the handcart company departed camp ahead of the wagons. Portentously struggling to negotiate the steep terrain near the campsite at East Canyon State Park, the walkers were left to ponder their well-substantiated fears that the wagons, which would follow shortly thereafter, would not fare so fortunately.
Good morning.
Don't get too close. You're going to need some room. Going off this hill. Just keep an interval.
Following the handcart company over the same steep terrain, the wagons ran into troubles. Unable to negotiate the descent, Val Robbins' team was spooked and bolted down the hill, crossing around and through the other wagons in front of it. Miraculously, no one was hurt.
Okay. I'm all right.
All right. Just sit there and catch your breath. We got you.
10 days prior to Val's accident, a similar situation occurred. Near Bear River Crossing, a neck yoke broke, causing Val to lose control of his team. 86-year-old Weldon Beck went along for the ride. Fortunately, on the morning of July 21st, Weldon was in another wagon.
I'm worried about you.
In a minute, I just
I'm just glad you weren't there.
The miracle is my 9-year-old grandson was sitting up on the seat with me. And when I seen that first wagon go down over the hill, I knew we could have a problem, so I told him to get in the back. I don't know what would have happened to him if he'd have stayed up on that seat with his grandpa. I don't think there's room for two of us to fit on the ground between that wagon and the wheels.
I couldn't even stand up when I got off the wagon. My legs were shaking so bad. Saw him coming right at me, and I grabbed the left line and I jerked my other drivers on their drive, and I grabbed the left line and pulled them to the left, or they'd have run right into us.
It's scary. I could see it happening, and then about that same time as his runaway was going down the road, I was hitting the section of trail that he'd hit, and my wagon was starting to bounce and push my horses. And the only way I wasn't running down the hill is I have big horses, and they sat down.
How it didn't tip over, I just don't know, because it looked like it just should have rolled.
When he came by, boy, that scared me. I just thought, wow. Then when I seen him flip off that wagon and land in the rocks, and I thought that wagon was going to run right over him. But he rolled. Just enough those wheels went right past him. And then I thought, oh my heck, that wagon going down there loose that way, what's it going to do with the people at the bottom?
You know, injuries are pretty small. I got a broken arm, and Catherine Goodfellow's shaken up, got a big bruise on her leg and a pretty good bump on her head, but other than that, we're in good shape.
It was a bad call on my part to take him off there, and from the bottom of my heart to you and to the world, I apologize for what happened, and I certainly apologize to Val and his family. It looked good, but it turned sour, and I'm sorry it happened. I'm very sorry.
Okay, ready, guys? Let's drop. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah, I'll help.
All right. Woo!
We did it!
Near 11:30 a.m., the amazing handcart company reached the summit of Big Mountain. The wagons, having struggled with the effects of the morning's accident, were still several miles behind. Setting aside the carts and in anticipation of viewing the valley for the first time, the group joined together at the top to unitedly look westward. After a trek of some 1,100 miles, the emotions could not be contained. For there in the distance, the valley spread out before them, and as their pioneer forebears, they too rejoiced in the vision of their long-awaited destination.
This is almost the place.
Oh, it's just tremendous. It's good to see the valley again.
Pioneers got to Salt Lake. They didn't have to leave each other. We have been with each other for so long, and then tomorrow we're going to have to say goodbye. We can't even make it through today, I don't think.
Thank you, everyone that came with us today. I think it's momentous what we've accomplished in such a short time, and we relatively few had to take breaks, and everybody made it up here, and we're all together. And I think what an awesome, I was so excited coming all the way up, I thought my chest was going to rip open.
I love it, but I'm really sad to go home. And I can't look at Liz because then I'll cry, and I can't start crying now, so I won't shut up for 3 days.
I don't know if it's because I finally realized we did this, or if it's because it's the end. Having to say bye to a lot of friends that have been dear, that are like family.
As the wagons reached the top of Big Mountain, the teamsters were now confronted with the challenging descent down the steep western face. Despite the supposed ease of traveling on paved roads, by now the animals were tired, the pavement hot, and the possibility of sliding down the mountain out of control could quickly become a reality. Covered wagons had not descended this hill since the pioneers of the mid-1800s, and again, safety was a primary concern. Similar to the logs placed between the spokes of the wagons in the original treks, skid plates were attached to the back of the wheels on each wagon. These plates would keep the wheels from turning, allowing the teamsters more control throughout the descent. During the descent, because of the heat created by the friction of the skid plates on the road, many teamsters poured water on the plates to cool them down. Regardless of their efforts, on several occasions the steel skids melted right through, leaving large holes in the plates burned by the heat.
When I came to the top of Big Mountain and looked down and could see the valley, I didn't know what emotion I might feel. Would it be love? Would it be relief? Would it be exhilaration? I didn't know, but the feeling that came over me was gratitude. I was so overcome with gratitude I couldn't speak, and the tears fell from my eyes. I was so thankful to God that He had blessed us.
Come, come, ye saints, no toil nor labor fear, but with joy wend your way. Oh, to you this journey may appear, grace shall be as your day. 'Tis better far for us to strive, our useless cares from us to drive. Do this and joy your hearts will swell. All is well, all is well.
When we started out as 7 trustees and an advisory council and some 30-odd wagons out of Omaha with it in the support staff, it was basically our little wagon train moving across. And as Jared and I sat on the wagon seat coming into Immigration Canyon, we realized that this was no longer our train. This train belonged to the world.
Why should we mourn or think our lot is hard? 'Tis not so, all is right. Why should we think to earn a great reward if we now shun the fight? Gird up your loins, fresh courage take. Our God will never us forsake, and so
You will now go your separate ways, but you will never forget this remarkable experience, nor will we. You will tell your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren about the year of 1997 when you made the long journey west, following the tracks of the pioneers of 150 years earlier. God bless you, my beloved associates, what you have done for each of us.
We'll find the place which God for us prepared, far away in the west, where none shall come to hurt or make afraid. There the saints will be blessed. We'll make the air with music ring, shout praises to our God and King. Above the rest these words we'll tell. All is well, all is well.
Well, I knew that they were up in the Bowery, so I wasn't looking for them. But when we stopped, I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I was just standing there looking around knowing my parents were somewhere, within 100 yards of me, and I couldn't find them. So
Great thing for me to watch.
Upon reaching the valley, and after the emotional festivities of the morning, members of the train gathered at the pond above This Is the Place State Park to celebrate Turbo's baptism. Several weeks earlier, Turbo had expressed an interest in joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and had chosen this time at the trail's end. Elder Hugh Pinnock was invited to perform the ordinance.
There was a spirit inside us. A lot of us, me alone, also didn't know that there was a spirit inside us. That perhaps the spirit of, I don't know if I had ancestors who went across or not. Maybe I did. Maybe that's where that spirit comes from. It's from the ancestors above that have pushed us, or kind of tell us to kind of appreciate what we got now. Not every one of us will be together at the same time ever again. And that's where the sadness comes into part. I mean, we've made friends, we'll communicate with each other afterwards, but not every one of us will be together. There'll be some that'll pass on above us, and some of us that'll go other ways and lose contact.
And should we die before our journey's through, happy day, all is well. We then are free from toil and sorrow too. With the just we shall dwell. But if our lives are spared again to see the saints their rest obtain, oh, how we'll make this